Returnal feels unlike anything I've played before, but at the same time, part of it feels familiar. A frenetic third-person shooter that's an amalgamation of roguelike and bullet hell elements while still delivering on a great story and atmosphere makes it an incredible experience. However, the lack of a checkpoint system or the ability to save can also make it somewhat frustrating at times. Returnal follows Celine Vassos, an Astra scout who crash lands on an alien planet called Atropos after intercepting something she calls the White Shadow signal. After emerging from her damaged ship, Celine sets off to explore the planet, and this is where things start to become strange. Celine discovers that when she dies, a time loop activates, sending her right back to the moment before her ship crashed, forcing her to start again. In addition to this, the planet seems to change with each new loop. This serves as the reason behind the roguelike part of the game, where you do multiple runs, but it also works really well when it comes to the storytelling. There are a host of audio logs that Celine can find that belong to her past selves. These slowly feed you little bits of the story, but in a way that keeps you intrigued throughout. The game's atmosphere is great too, feeling like a homage to the Alien film franchise as it sees you exploring the strange planet, discovering what happened to the civilization that lived there before. It's incredibly easy to become invested in Celine's journey since she's as confused as you are about the events that are transpiring. Not to mention how she pulls herself to her feet after an unsuccessful run, determined to do better on the next one. The gameplay in Returnal is incredibly fast-paced and takes a bit of getting used to. It isn't long before the influences of Housemarque's previous titles such as Resogun and Matterfall start to become apparent, and how they've been adapted for Returnal though. It actually works pretty well. Celine moves with great speed and also has the ability to dash to quickly avoid enemy attacks. Aside from weaponry, the dash is probably one of the most important abilities since it grants temporary invincibility, allowing you to dash through attacks. Knowing when to dash and when to just strafe is also important since Returnal emphasizes not getting hit by enemy attacks. Not only because you lose health, but also how it rewards you for maintaining that streak. As you successfully dispatch enemies, Celine will build up adrenaline levels to a maximum of 5. With each level gained, you are granted a buff ranging from easier reloading of your weapon to a shorter cooldown for your melee attack. Take a single hit though and you lose all of them, starting the process of building the adrenaline levels again. It sounds a bit harsh, and it can be, but it's also really great being rewarded for playing well. This is especially true when it comes to the integrity of Celine's suit, since collecting health pickups when your health is already full increases its capacity. There's also some risk versus reward choices to be made throughout the game as you encounter malignant objects. Picking up these objects or opening up chests afflicted by it can result in a malfunction which debuffs one of your abilities. In order to remove it, you'll need to complete a specific task such as racking up a few melee kills, collecting artifacts, or picking up a parasite. The latter also plays a part in the risk and reward aspect as they provide perks but simultaneously add a debuff. These decisions can pay off tremendously when you're in a tight spot, possibly increasing your max health by a large amount. However, they can also be incredibly punishing if you end up with an upgrade that doesn't feel worth it. Additionally, these can often spell the end for your run if you don't remove the debuff as soon as possible. It's worth considering if you see something you think might help your run, since this keeps the gameplay loop interesting and constantly shifts the playing field. The enemies that you'll encounter in Returnal come in many shapes and sizes, but they are all dangerous and each have different attacks and patterns. Sometimes it's good to let them attack first to see what kind of attack you can expect and also the speed at which they deliver it. Some will stick to range combat while others will prefer to close the gap for some close combat. Of course, this rings true for the bosses as well, of which there are 5 to fight. The bosses tend to really throw everything at you, making for a fight where standing still can lead to Celine taking a lot of damage in a hurry. They're tough to beat and can take a bit of practice, but beating one and gaining access to the next biome is so rewarding. Thankfully, once you've beaten the boss, you don't have to fight them again unless you really want to. Taking on these enemies wouldn't be fun if you didn't have an interesting array of weapons to make use of, and Returnal delivers just that. You start out with a pistol, but as you make your way through the first biome, you'll stumble upon a carbine rifle or a shotgun, maybe both. These work well as starting weapons, but are just a taste of what's to come. What's great about the weapons, however, is how they unlock more traits once you've racked up enough kills with that weapon. These range from adding extra homing projectiles to your shots or even speeding up the rate of fire the longer you hold down the trigger. The best part is that these trait unlocks persist even after you've died, so if it's present on a particular weapon, it'll be active without the required kills. While Returnal employs a roguelike format and is quite brilliant, it doesn't deliver on the desire for one more round that other roguelikes do. This is purely because a single run can take a fair amount of time, sometimes up to 2 hours, meaning you can't just have a quick run. What's worse is that the game doesn't feature the ability to save and pick up where you left off if you feel like playing something else. The only way to continue a run would be to leave the console in rest mode, since turning it off sends you back to the start as if beginning a new run. Additionally, sometimes games crash. This hasn't happened to me, however I did encounter an issue where my controller inputs weren't being recognized, forcing me to close the software and start it up again. This happened at the start of a run, thankfully, and not after a large chunk of playtime. Housemarque have confirmed that this is something they're working on implementing though. There's also a lack of meaningful permanent upgrades, which can make the game feel like a bit of a grind if you happen to die on a run later in the game. This is especially true since weapon drops tend to scale with your proficiency, so the only way to get a similar or higher power level would be to kill as many enemies as possible before opening up chests. One of the things that I love about Returnal is how it makes use of the DualSense controller. It starts off pretty simple, asking you to half press the L2 button to aim and then requiring you to push past the adaptive trigger's resistance to activate your weapon's alt attack. However, it never felt as if I was going to push past the threshold when aiming down sights and accidentally activate the alt attack. And then it takes a step further by using the haptics to simulate drops of rain falling on you as you make your way through a biome, or even delivering a custom rumble to let you know that your alt attack is ready to go. It's truly excellent. Visually, Returnal looks fantastic, from the level and enemy design to the beautiful particle effects. The music is also eerie throughout but manages to elevate to blood-pumping levels during the game's boss fights. Returnal is amazing. The story and gameplay come together nicely to create an incredibly entertaining experience. The fact that each run feels different from the last, thanks to the weapons you find and the artifacts and parasites you collect, keeps everything fresh. It also looks and sounds great, and the way it uses the DualSense to make it feel even more next-gen is brilliant. However, the lack of a save system and how it holds your console hostage because of the lengthy runs makes it less likely that players will want to jump right back in after dying. Still though, it doesn't remove the desire to play completely because it's such an incredible game in other aspects. Housemarque should be commended for creating one of their best games yet. If you enjoyed this review, please hit that like button, and if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you got your hands on Returnal, please let me know what you thought of the game in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.